Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Just Talking About Sports. I'm Ethan.
And I'm Matthew.
And Matt, what are we doing today?
Talking about sports, baby.
Thank you. And this week is our 7th week. Wow, 7 weeks of college basketball. And oh boy, is it been a crazy week. There are only 2 teams that did not move in the entire top 25 rankings. So let's just say there's a lot of teams on the move this week, as it was a little bit of a crazier week. But before we get right into the college basketball things, I just want to give a quick news update on what happened with March Madness, because it's all going to be, or all of March Madness, the tournament itself is going to be played in Indiana. So that means they're going to be in my own backyard in game. They're going to be playing in the Indiana Pacers Stadium. They're going to be playing in Butler's Hinkle Stadium. They're going to be playing in IUPUI Stadium, Purdue Stadium, and an emergency stadium in Ball State, and also IU Stadium too. There's basically they're going to be playing all the games in Indiana instead of all over the country due to COVID. But I just want to throw that in there just because it's major news for college basketball, and
major news for a Butler attendee.
Exactly. So now we'll go just right into the top 25 rankings, starting off with basically the 2 teams that have remained basically in the same place in Gonzaga and Baylor, because they're still 1-2, 10-0, 9-0, nothing really happening. But now we'll get into the craziness, starting off with Villanova's up at number 3 after they had a big win this week. And what the heck, number 4? Wait a minute, Texas is number 4. Matt, why is Texas number 4?
Texas is number 4 because they wanted to beat some Jayhawks this weekend, and oh my God, did they do just that. When you go in to Kansas, your goal is to not always win, because they're a team that that you're not gonna go into Kansas and win, right? Wrong. Texas came in here with an attitude. They absolutely destroyed Kansas. 84-59, your final score. You had Jericho Sims. That man's been a beast the past year or so. He had 12 boards. Courtney Ramsey had 18. Matt Coleman with 6 assists. Those are your stat leaders. They shot unbelievably well from the floor. Their defensive efficiency held Kansas to under 40% from inside the arc and under 20% outside of it. Unbelievable defensive showing for Texas. And if this is the way they can continue to play all season long, Texas will be a 1 seed come March. Texas has built a perfect program. They have a ton of really good top recruits. They've got a whole bunch of dunkers flying around. Greg Brown with that poster early on in the season, still etched in memory. Texas is going to be a problem, and they are the kings of the Big 12 for now.
Yeah, this is the first time that Texas has been really in the major spotlight since Kevin Durant was there, I believe. So Texas is finally coming. They're back, and they're back in business, and they're going to continue to keep going.
I would like to say real quick, Texas is the kings of the Big 12, and you're going to say, well, wait a minute. What about Baylor? I think Texas beats Baylor right now. I think Texas beats Baylor right now. Tell me a really good team apart from Illinois that Baylor has beaten or played against well. You can't name one. Mm-hmm. I think right now you are looking at your best team in the Big 12. I don't think it's Baylor. I think it's Texas. But Baylor hasn't lost a game, so let's keep them at number 2 where they deserve to be. But Texas right now is the team to beat in the Big 12.
Yep, and we'll just have to keep seeing. They move up 4 spots, 8-1. They got a little bit of an easier schedule for their first game, but then they go up against West Virginia, which we'll get into later this week, which is another ranked team. So we'll see if Texas can continue their hot streak and control of in your opinion, the control of the Big 12. But we'll keep moving on. Iowa is now back, and they have revived themselves after a rough week last week where they dropped pretty far, and they are now back. They moved their way back up, and they're back up at spot number 5 after huge wins, and we'll continue to keep going down. Obviously, Kansas had a rough game against Texas, so they dropped down 3 spots, down at number 6. Creighton is up 4 spots after another great week for them, no losses, and they move up to spot number 7, whereas Wisconsin, they ended up dropping 1 to an unranked Maryland, but then they redeemed themselves up against, I believe,
Minnesota.
Thank you, Minnesota. So they redeemed themselves late in the week, from basically dropping like crazy if they would have lost to Minnesota, but instead they just moved down 2 spots and they're still in the top 10. Tennessee they were able to knock off Mizzou this week, which was the big SEC showdown. Although, surprisingly, out of nowhere, Alabama goes out and then knocks them off on Saturday. So they dropped down 2 spots thanks to their big win against Mizzou, but they only dropped down 2 spots similar to Wisconsin. And then we stop once again at the undefeated Yellow M themselves, Michigan. Matt, once again, why is Michigan at number 10?
Because they haven't lost a game. And whether you like it or not, this team is playing really, really good. They take down Maryland by 11. Good win, but nobody's giving you any credit for that on New Year's Eve. You head into a new, fresh week. This is the big, okay, you got to go get this win against Northwestern, a team that has been on fire, beating a lot of very good teams. And Northwestern had a rough week. They lost to Iowa. They head into this game hoping for a bounce back. Michigan said, yeah, get off my court. Michigan continues to dominate. They don't have that one big player, but they just need one player to go off at any given point. Hunter Dickinson, their center, dropping for 19. They have Wagner's brother on here, by the way, too. Franz Wagner, he had 10. I think that's interesting, so I want to point that out. Michigan hasn't lost. That's the main point here. They're in the top 10 because they haven't lost. But I appreciate that they're not number 4 because, they haven't beaten anybody, number 1. And number 2, just because they're Michigan doesn't mean they should be high. They jumped 6 this week. It's a big jump. But if you want to look at all the pandemonium, 11 teams in the top 25 lost this week. They were not one of them.
Actually, it was 13.
13. Jesus. Oh, that graphic may not be updated that I saw earlier. 13 teams in the top 25 lost this week. Thanks, Ethan. And so Michigan got their rightfully deserved jump in this ranking. Good for them. They're in the top 10. And as long as they keep winning, it'll keep getting higher.
Yeah, I mean, as much as I hate Michigan, once again, 9-0. I mean, you look at the top 25. The only undefeated teams on this list are Gonzaga and Baylor, as the undefeated teams slowly but surely continue to fall, and we're losing them one by one. So since Michigan is undefeated, they haven't really played anybody, which is the reason why they're at number 10. But I do have to give respect for being 9-0. Although this week is going to be another challenging one. They got Minnesota and then they got Penn State. But then basically these next 2 weeks are going to be very, very a tough test to see if this Michigan team really is a top 10 team or not, because they got Minnesota twice and Wisconsin once. So
we've talked about it so many times in previous videos. It's just the Big Ten. Like, and at the end of the day, a Big Ten team with 4 losses here next week should be in the top 25 because of just how hard their schedules play. Like, it's just the way it is. You're going to see a Big Ten team later on in the year with 9 or 10 losses that you think, oh, God, why the hell are they in here? You're playing the Big Ten. If you're getting some of these big wins, in Minnesota, which I think we will discuss at some point here shortly, they lost a game this week and they moved up so much. It's going to be that. It's going to be the way things are in the Big Ten.
Mm-hmm. And with that, we'll continue moving down the stretch, but we'll actually stop once again because Houston, after being the number 5 seed, drops 6 spots after only losing 1 game. You're wondering, how do they drop 6 spots after losing 1 game? All right, that's because they versed nobody, and that nobody ended up being Tulsa, a 5-3 Tulsa team that they lost on a last-second foul on a Houston player with 0.1 seconds left. Not a good look for a Houston team that's been trying to control their own destiny in basically a division that's not that hard and doesn't have many challenging teams in it. And instead, they end up dropping one that they should not have done to a Tulsa team that has been all right. They've been average. And this is going to be a big win for Tulsa and a huge loss for Houston. They dropped down 6 spots, no longer in the top 10. And we'll see if they'll most likely be able to bounce back because they're still not versing anybody for a little while longer. But Houston dropped 6 spots. Not a good look for them this week.
I am appalled by this move by the committee, by the top 25 committee, because they have no right dropping as many spots as they did. Plain and simple. You lose the game by 1 in the final seconds because of a foul. Your first loss of the season. And then you go out on Sunday and take down and absolutely destroy an unbeaten team in SMU. I hate this move. I think it's a terrible move by the top 25. They don't deserve any right of dropping this far. You have an impressive victory and a tough loss. and you drop 6 spots, this is what I don't like. Michigan over them is, and again, Michigan's been playing well, but I don't like that move at all. I think it's a bad move. It shows that conferences at the end of the day are still a major outlier, and I just think that's complete BS.
Oh, Matt, but that's what happens. Remember, you were telling me that
Doesn't
Michigan
mean I have to like it, but I know I understand.
Yeah, it just doesn't mean we like it. It's just I think 6 spots is a little much for a Houston team coming off a loss. But I think they just wanted to give Michigan a top 10. Yeah, you made the top 10 because that's how the committee is. Remember, they love.
I think Tennessee should be lower than this team. Tennessee is garbage.
Oh,
I'm just being honest. I think Tennessee, if you lose to Alabama, congratulations, you beat Missouri. We knew Missouri wasn't that good. And then they lose to Alabama like that. I don't like it. I just don't like it.
Yeah, but with that, we'll just continue moving down the stretch. Illinois is back once they're revived with Iowa too. They're back up 3 spots after they have also redeemed themselves after losing 3 games and weren't looking good, just about to fall out of the top 25. And then they go out and they win 3 straight with their most recent. I mean, it was 3 teams against unranked teams, and then this week they got more unranked teams, which it used to be a Northwestern team that was ranked, and a Penn State or Maryland, team. So Illinois, an easier schedule for them. They'll continue to move up. Missouri is down 1, obviously, after losing to Tennessee. They're just going to stay around here because, once again, they're in the SEC. And then we'll stop at West Virginia with an 8-3 record. Used to be in the top 10, and they are no longer in the top 10. Why? Because they, too, lost to an unranked team this week in Oklahoma. Sweet home Oklahoma, Matt?
Yeah, and give me credit for that because I created that 20 minutes before we started. But yeah.
Yeah, so it was a 71-71 or 75-71 loss to Oklahoma, and a West Virginia team that was looking to try and stay big in the Big 12. We did warn everybody that this Big 12 was going to get a little crazy, just like the Big 10, as all these Big 12 teams and these higher ranked teams are going to be versing each other because they're in the same conference, which means we're going to be seeing some teams fall. And likely, like I said earlier, it was going to be West Virginia because I don't think they could stick with the Kansas, the Baylor, and the Texas. So West Virginia falls. They have another rough week ahead of them after they have a Oklahoma State team that's likely to try and move up this week into the top 25, and a Texas team that we've already praised enough earlier. So we'll see how long this West Virginia team stays in the top 25.
I think by Tuesday of next, so a week from tomorrow, this team is going to be 9-5. You look at it. They're currently 8-3. They'll beat Oklahoma State tonight. They should. And then I'll get a notification here in 2 hours that says you were wrong. But Texas, West Virginia, I think Texas is playing too well. Baylor still, until they lose, you can't pick against them. That's next Tuesday. So big problems ahead for West Virginia. This is one of those games against Oklahoma. You're just like, oh my God, we lost to them. Bad look. It's a really bad look for West Virginia. And not only that, you've got the brunt of the Big 12 staring at you in the face. So this is just a huge problem for West Virginia, and I don't think they collect it in time before they dip out of these rankings next week.
Okay. Yep. And with that, we'll continue with these next 2 Big 10 teams that lose but are still kind of winning at the same time. Rutgers at number 15 lost to an Iowa team by 2 points, but they only dropped down 1 spot because Iowa is now in the top 5, so it looks like a good win for them. And Minnesota is the second double-digit win team besides Gonzaga in this top 25 ranking, and they move up 5 spots. Also, despite losing a game this week to Wisconsin, which didn't really look good, but they move up 5 spots still after losing to Wisconsin after they kind of came out and crushed Ohio State thanks to one man, and that man is Liam Robbins, scoring 27 points, 14 rebounds, and 5 blocks in one game. This dude went off for them, and it wasn't even Marcus Carr this time, who's been really the centerpiece of this Minnesota team. So Minnesota, despite that, move up 5 spots. We'll keep continuing down. We have Oregon at number 17, 8-1, a Pac-12 team, the only Pac-12 team in this top 25. They move up 4 spots because they haven't lost. And then Texas Tech, they dropped down 5 spots because they ended up losing this week to Houston, I believe. Or no, excuse me, I'm way behind. Oklahoma State, an unranked Oklahoma State team, which that was a big win for them. And that's why we're saying that Oklahoma State's going to be in the top 25 rankings soon, because they ended up being a ranked team. And if they have a great week this week, they will definitely be in the top 25 by next week. And then we move to the ACC corner, where it's Virginia Tech at moving up 5 spots after their win. And we'll stop here at number 20, Clemson. This is not college football. This is basketball. And they move up 7 spots, biggest move up this week. Why? Because they've had at least they only have a 1 loss, and they knocked off a Florida State team, which previously was ranked number 18, who have now dropped to 20 or number 25, and they survived a 1-point win against a Miami team this week. This is one of the more questionable moves I think I have with this week's ranking. I know you questioned Houston dropping. I have a little question about Clemson, because moving up 7 spots for beating a Miami team and a Florida State team, was only ranked 18, is I think a little much for a 7-spot move up. I know, once again, we said that a lot of teams were dropping. I mean, a lot of teams were dropping, so that pretty much helps them boost. I think moving up 7 spots was a little high.
Well, here's the thing. Remember, and Clemson, by the way, they're tied for 19th. It's a whole mess. Just welcome to the world. But Clemson, to me, is my question mark, because they only have 1 loss, but they haven't looked pretty at all. So it's tough. They're a team that you look purely at record. Okay, the 19th spot is deserved. But then you look at overall performance, and you're teetering back and forth. Florida State, huge, impressive victory. Miami, they looked terrible all game, shot under 40%, still able to win. That's one of those ugly wins, but you don't drop because of those. I think Clemson is where they should be. It's just it doesn't feel deserved.
We'll see what they have. They've got another easier schedule since they're in the ACC, but they have at least a kind of an easier schedule. They have an NC State team that's actually been playing very well in the ACC this year. I believe they only have 1 loss in the ACC. And then we have North Carolina, which every normal year would be saying, oh, it's North Carolina, they're probably going to lose. Oh, wait, no, North Carolina's not ranked. All we need is Duke and then Michigan State, and we'll be missing like the top 4 from last year that were all like ranked, or like 2 years ago, that were all ranked number 1. We're missing all number 1 seeds, which will just be baffling to think about. But with talking about Duke, we'll continue with them. Duke is down 1 spot. Once again, they have been struggling to find time to play a game in the first place.
No, they just chose not to play.
Oh, they're choosing not to.
I told you that, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, they should be out of here. I've said that already, but
congratulations.
They're still in for now.
Yeah, they're in here because of the word Coach K. That's exactly why they're in here. But we'll
give it to a team like Drake that's played 12 games and hasn't lost. Don't give it to a team like this that refuses to play because they're too scared to do so.
Exactly. So we'll continue moving down. We got Virginia. That's 5-2. They I think only played 1 game this week. Move up 1 spot. Why? Because they have basically everyone else has gone crazy, like we said, and a lot of teams are falling. But thanks to that, we have we'll take one last stop with Matt for his final team that he wanted to talk about, a new team we have not seen in the top 25 so far this year, kind of like Clemson we haven't seen so far, and that is St. Louis. 7-1 St. Louis joining the top 25 at spot number 23.
This is a victory. For a fan like me, this is a victory, seeing that even with the loss, a non-conference, out-of-nowhere team still getting some love. The Billikens of St. Louis have played really well, and they've had a guard in Javonte Perkins that has just been so good, shooting 54% from the field. He's averaging 18 points. This team is top 5 in points per game for a college team so far this season. They're rebounding incredibly well. Their defense are allowing less than 65 points per game. And they lead all of the NCAA in steals per game. Like, it is this thing right here. St. Louis is underappreciated because of the opponents they play. But just because you don't play good opponents doesn't mean your team isn't still going absolutely bonkers. Their only loss, by the way, coming to number 16 Minnesota in an extremely close game. These are the things that I talk about. Underappreciated. You look at a team like this, and I'm going to do a quick thing like I just said with Drake. You're 12-0. They are not appreciated. It's these teams. Just because you don't play good opponents doesn't mean you don't deserve to be on these rankings, and this is exactly the example. I'm glad to see that St. Louis is on here, and I'm glad to see they're above Florida State because they deserve that.
Yep. And St. Louis, despite being in the A10, they're finally up here with their only loss coming to a Minnesota team that is ranked 16. So that's been a long time coming for the St. Louis team, and especially since our teams that we like paying attention to, like the Richmond and the San Diego States, have fallen off a cliff lately. So they are no longer in the top 25. But we will continue moving on as we finish up. We have Michigan State at spot number 24. They're almost gone out of that top 25 after being in like the top 4 at one point this year, after they are on a losing streak and a half. I mean, they ended it against a Nebraska team, but before that, they had a 3-game losing streak against Northwestern, Wisconsin, Minnesota. This week, they have Purdue, they have Rutgers, who is ranked number 15, and Purdue. So we'll see if Michigan State can survive the top 20 or staying in the top 25 for any longer. They're hanging on hanging on a thread with three losses this year, which is usually unheard of for a Michigan State team, but they are almost gone. And then our final team, top 20 in the top 25, Florida State dropped 7 spots after dropping a game to, like we said, Clemson. So Florida State on their way out, and that will pretty much do it for week 7 of our college basketball review. Talk about a crazy week this week in terms of when 13 of the top 25 teams lose, it's going to be a wild week in the AP poll. So definitely a fun video to go through today. I hope everyone has enjoyed it. Make sure you guys are subscribed. And with that, that'll conclude us. And until next time, we'll just be here just talking about sports.
Have a great one, everybody.